It was a long night and a long week. That last video sparked something. I just couldn't let it go. We're gonna dig deeper. First of all, I'm not a lawyer, especially not a patent lawyer. But I am a technologist and a photographer, and I really want to know, deep down, who was right, who was wrong, and should we be picking a side? Well, didn't want it to have to come to this, but in my last video, we talked about the whole Profoto versus Godox situation. I didn't take a stance there, because that video wasn't about that. And well, photographers, it's true. You make a big deal about rights and usage, and copyright, and companies and Profoto have a right to defend themselves in the copyright and trademark and patent arena. But I didn't want to just take their word for it. I want to dig deeper, always dig deeper. And so, here we are. We're gonna dig deeper and try to get to the bottom of this. Is there precedent? Who's in the right, who's in the wrong? I don't think this is gonna be the last video on this, but we'll see what we can find. And I have to admit, I did find a few surprises along the way. Not everything was as it seemed. Case number 75B2 is open. We've got patents, we have files, we have evidence. Let's have a look at the evidence first. Got a lot going on here, not as much as I'd like. Item number 1, the Ferris ring. The ring that started it all. To try to get a hand on all this, let's have a look at our timeline. So right from the get-go, this appears to be open and shut case. Profoto releases the A1 in 2017. Then in 2019, Godox releases the V1. And it's a clear ripoff, right? I don't know, let's dig deeper. If we dig way back, we end up somewhere entirely unexpected. A little company called Shenzhen Yuanqi. And here, we find a patent for the first modern round head speedlight. That looks a lot like some of the things we're looking at today. But what exactly did Profoto patent? Well, let's have a look. We have 3 patents here. There's a United States patent, a European Union patent, and a design patent. So it looks like the first thing that Profoto did was file a design patent of the A1. It's just what the flash looks like. So no one else can make flash that looks exactly like that. This was granted back in 2020, but it was filed way back in 2017, long before the V1 came onto the market. But if we look at our European Union and United States patents, we'll see something a little bit different. It goes into great detail, outlining the Fresnel lens on the front, which, I have to note, doesn't really work the same way as the Fresnel lens on the front of the Godox. It goes into the detail of how the modifiers work, how they stack on top of each other, how the zooming function inside the head works. I have to say, in some ways, it's a little bit more primitive than the ones being used by Godox for years at this point. But the important thing to note here, and find in the fine print, in the background and summary, is that the Profoto patent specifically talks about using a magnetic attachment system to modify the flash. That original round-headed flash from years ago doesn't say anything about that. What has Godox patented? Maybe they have some feet to stand on here. Godox has been making flashes for a long time at this point. And they've been doing some pretty innovative stuff. Way back with the V860, one of the first transceiver, if not the first transceiver flashes on the market, I found a patent for Godox flash. One that predates all this other stuff, 2015. we have an internal lithium-ion battery pack that is removable. Quite possibly the first. I cannot find an example of a flash that integrates a lithium-ion battery pack before this time. I wonder if Godox should stand on that. In the detail and the write-up, obviously there is no mention of magnetic attachments. So we have zooming heads, we have lithium-ion battery packs. All pretty standard stuff by the time the Profoto A1 comes out. And Godox has other patents like for their S1 and S2 brackets. Nothing about that magnetic ring. Things are getting complicated and not looking good. Is it warm in here, or is it just me? Maybe we need to look further, and so I looked further. Around the same time that the V860 came out, Photix made some flashes as well. They had transceivers, also launched in 2014, but Photix oddly didn't patent their flash units in any way. They just patented the on-camera transmitter, so that was no help to us either. But then, magnetic attachments. We know someone who's synonymous with magnetic attachments. That's MagMod. That's what they're all about. Surely they have something going on here, some sort of a precedent. Profoto, they came pretty late into the scene here with their magnetic attachments. So MagMod, they've been patented since 2013. But in what way? Well, as you can see, MagMod had a whole bunch of patents. But their attachment system, they were pretty specific about how it works. As you can see in the patent here, we're looking at two magnets coming through and connecting to the modifiers. And they aren't specific about it being a part of the flash, although this diagram certainly looks like a flash, obviously with the MagMod head attached to it, and magnetic modifier attachments. Not exactly the same thing, but also, as some people say, how can Profoto patent something that seems so blatantly obvious and has essentially been done before? But obviousness is not the basis for patent law. You can patent anything that you want. You can only enforce it if it doesn't have a clear precedent, isn't already ubiquitous in the market, and obviously if somebody hasn't already patented it themselves already. At this point, I want to stop and make note of something. How Profoto operates as a patenting company. Most successful American technology companies, especially the larger ones, they patent everything they can come up with. Everything that has occurred to them, every little thought that has crossed their minds. You might think that that's excessive, but it's not just about blocking other companies from innovating, it's about protecting your own intellectual property. And creating patents in such a way that it allows you to continue to innovate is a bit of an art. Say for example, MagMod. As we had mentioned before, their patent very specifically mentions having two magnets at the front to attach magnetic modifiers. Were their patenting engineers a little bit more forward-thinking, they could have created the patent in a slightly more generic manner. The way that they show that very specifically is much more commonly used in a design patent, where you show something very tight and rigid and protect that design. But in an actual product patent, it's generally better to have both a lot of specificity that explains your patent and how things work so that it's very legitimate and real, but also enough generality so that if you so choose to advance your product in future years, you don't run the risk of your competition patenting something fairly similar but different enough that it's an entirely valid patent. All of a sudden you're running up against a brick wall because you can't advance your own invention because your patent was far too specific. And when we go through Profoto's history of patenting, they have a lot more patents, and they seem to have been much more self-aware in the way that they patented their technologies. While Profoto talks about the magnetic attachment system, it's not highly specific, not overly specific, so they could move those magnets around if they wanted to and change exactly how it connects, but the concept behind it is there and it is patented. Godox, on the other hand, they don't have an awful lot of patents in their catalog, which kind of surprised me. Some people say that Godox just copies other people, but that cannot be entirely true, if it is true at all. Because Godox has come up with a lot of novel things, and for some reason, the only thing that they have strongly patented is their S1 and S2 brackets. But a lot of their flashes have novel form factors and novel designs. And they're not doing what large technology companies generally do to protect themselves. Now, I said large American technology companies. Profoto is not an American company, but they are well aware that they're operating within the United States ecosystem. They're playing ball the way that they need to. Unfortunately, Godox has not been aggressive enough in patenting, both to protect themselves, to protect their IP, and to fend off market forces. Again, I'm not a patent lawyer, I'm not a PI, but I am an electrical engineering technologist who studied product design in college. Let's dig into the timeline as we have assembled at this point. 2010, Shenzhen Yuanqi, they launch their patent. I don't think they came out with a product of the first round-headed modern speedlight. 2013, Godox files a patent for the original V860, Mark I. Also, in December of 2013, MagMod on December 30th. 3 days later, MagMod files their patent for magnetic attachments for a speedlight. And then in 2014, December, the V860 actually comes out. 2016, the V860 Mark II. Then in 2017, the Profoto A1 is released. Oddly, it's not until 2018 that Profoto really files the patents required to protect the technology in the Profoto A1. Then in 2019, in January, the Godox V1 comes out. And really, it's all downhill from there. From that point onward, both the Godox and the Profoto speedlights really just followed a slow evolution from there. You have the V1 Pro, you have the V100, likewise you have the A1X and the A10. Nothing surprising at that point. Let's get back to our evidence. Here we have again the offending Ferris ring from the V1, the V1 Pro, and the V100. And interestingly enough, also from the adapter, the S-R1. I tried it myself. You take the ring off of the S-R1, it is the exact same Ferris ring. So for $6.80, if you have the plastic ringed V100, you could steal one off of the S-R1. But I'm not necessarily advising you to violate anyone's possible patents. Speaking of which, the plastic ring that is shipping on the V100U. Originally, those flashes were shipping with the plastic ring installed. And some distributors were shipping this RC1 pack that contained a new Ferris ring so that users can reinstall that themselves. More recently, people receiving shipments from Amazon distributors have found that the RC1 box contains the plastic ring and the distributor has already installed the Ferris ring on the flash. Are they flouting the law? I don't know. Has a settlement been reached? Has an agreement been made? Or are there only threats in the air? Hard to say at this point. Nothing has really been made public. But there's got to be something else. Profoto, Yuanqi, Godox, MagMod. What's this? Expo Imaging. Who is Expo Imaging? Also known as Rogue, the makers of the Flashbender series. Here we have a patent that Expo Imaging themselves describe as magnetically attached modifiers for flashes. They are round. They can be all sorts of things. We have flashbenders, as they are famous for. And the patent specifically mentions an alignment feature that will align the first layer of attachments. Now, we know that in practice, these devices, the alignment feature is magnets. However, in this patent, US 8591049B2, very catchy, there is absolutely no mention of magnets. This patent was filed in January of 2011, long before any of this took place. And Expo Imaging, I don't know what happened. They produced something with alignment and attachment magnets in the end, and according to their own website, as they describe this patent as magnetic attachments, that was the intent. So unfortunately, Had the patent authors been a little more forward-thinking, they could have been causing their own trouble right now, or at least creating a precedent. But as it stands, I can't find any precedent. So what do we do with this information? Well, I don't think this is the end of this investigation. I want to dig deeper. You know what I want to do? I want to take a V1. I want to break it apart, strip it right down, but I also want to get my hands on an A1 so that I can strip it down right next to the V1. Because Profoto's original complaint against Godox alleges that Godox essentially ripped off the entire flash. But in the end, Godox really only seems to have to avoid the magnetic attachments. So I want to dig deeper and see just how similar these two flashes really are. So subscribe for more, and if you can find some way of me getting my hands on an A1 that likely won't be operational when I'm through with it, I don't really want to spend $1,000 on that. Let me know down in the comments below. And then we can all have a look and decide for ourselves what we think is going on under the hood here. Until then, it's time to dig a little deeper. And go take some photos.